Time for another coffee with Kilroy, or what I sometimes call beverage in a book. My beverage, well, I think you know what that is. As for the book, today it is The House on Sentinel Hill by Graham Plowman, a Lovecraftian Horror Gamebook, and has a tag on here, Cthulhu Mythos Gamebook. So I don't know if this is the first of many or the only one or right in the middle of a series, but this is the only one I have that has the Cthulhu Mythos Gamebook tag on it. I'll have to do some more looking into that, and if you know, feel free to drop that in the comments. Also today is Saturday, so it is Sci-Fi Fantasy Saturday, and as I am apt to do, I just do not do one thing at a time. I try to throw as much theme into either my weeks or my weekends as possible, and today is Cthulhu weekend, or at least Sci-Fi Fantasy Saturday Cthulhu style. Doing a coffee with Kilroy, and I'm going to have some other goodies later today, so check that out. If you are a Lovecraftian fan or interested in the Cthulhu mythos and seeing how it translates into gameplay, or in this case, a choose-your-own-adventure book, then today is a good day for you. So there should be something there hopefully something there that you might find interesting. So now let's take a look at this book here. I'm going to get a sip of my coffee and see what we have going on with The House on Sentinel Hill. Now this, as I said, is a choose-your-own-adventure style book, so today's page through is going to be very limited because I don't want to, spoil it and mess it up for future readers. Plus, I haven't played this yet, so I need to, I'm saving it for myself as well. The Choose Your Own Adventure books, if you're not familiar with them, they've been around for quite a long time, but it's basically a situation where you're going to read an entry, and that's going to prompt you to make a decision, which will have you go down a path of the results of that decision, and make additional decisions which will continue down either that path or yet a new path, and then eventually you'll have a result that's either good or bad for your character. Now, that's the original Choose Your Own Adventure type books, and there's still some of those out here. The current variety, or a lot of the current variety of Choose Your Own Adventure books, really added RPG or role-playing game aspect to them, where you actually have a character, you have character sheet, you keep track of items or points or attributes. I mean, it really is more of a role-playing experience in a book than in some of the earlier ones, where we're just, read and go, and it's, kind of one and done, because once you find the ultimate path, then you're done with the adventure. These games tend to, these Choose Your Own Adventure nowadays, with the role-playing game aspects, tend to have a little bit more of a branching paths and multiple paths, to victory, whatever that is called. So, and this is a good thick book. I mean, the thicker the better, because that gives you more choices, because this is basically a compendium of narrative paragraphs, that you're going to read, and it's going to tell a story, and you're going to make decisions based off that. So, the trick for the current Choose Your Own Adventure style books are, not only do they have to be an interesting story, but they also have to have some compelling twists, because you're trying to solve a puzzle, and you're trying to make some decisions, and you want your decisions to be tough. But then they also have to have decent gameplay, right? Because how you roll up your character, and what attributes and what items or skills or whatever you pick have to make you feel like you're adding to the story, or that your decisions are not just, it's an A or B decision, and so what? I mean, your skills and characteristics and items might affect that decision as well, or help you maybe pass skill checks or something like that. So these are a little bit more involved than your typical read a paragraph, make a choice. That is kind of the core, but that's just the baseline. Everything else is layered on: the role playing aspect, the tricky decisions, and also good writing. You have to have if it's horrible writing, then you're not going to get too far in a narrative driven game book. All right, let's look at the back here. 1926 New England, an intriguing find in the archives of the Miskatonic Library leads you to an old house on a hill and the mystery of a 10-year-old murder case. Yet some mysteries are as old as time and space, and mankind's place in the universe is not as assured as we were led to believe. Will you succeed in uncovering the truth with your mind intact? That's always a key aspect of Cthulhu Mythos, is sanity. Or will the secret of the house on Sentinel Hill and what lies beyond be your unraveling? You decide the outcome in this terrifying Lovecraftian adventure. So there you have that. Let's open this up here. So we got the internal illustrations by Matthew Dewhurst, and there's some black and white illustrations in here throughout, inspired by the work of H.P. Lovecraft. So you see an example of some of the imagery right there. About this book, this is going to tell you, that it's basically give you some context, and you're going to decide the outcomes of how you go through this book, right? Here's the rules of play. You're going to have skills and attributes. Again, this is more of a role-playing game, solo, choose-your-own-adventure role-playing game. And I do like that. I mean, I like role-playing, played it a lot in junior high and into high school, and then not as much after that, and mainly because it's hard to find a group or find a consistent group. And so solo role-playing has always been interesting to me. In fact, my first role-playing game I bought was Top Secret, and I found a solo role-playing module for that, solo module for that. And so these choose-your-own-adventure type books really lend themselves nicely into a solo role-playing type aspect. Now, there's the limited replay ability. I mean, there's a lot of game in this book, it looks like, but there is some limited replayability because once you've found, solved the mystery and found the best path. Now, some of these have multiple paths, but once you've explored a couple of those paths, then the story, right? I mean, it's like you can go back and read books. Some people go back and read books several times, so there is still that aspect. And you might change your character a little bit different and try to min-max a little bit more maybe to go through the game, but there's still quite a bit of game in here. So here's rules of play, skills and attributes. So you got check rolls here. So you're going to need to add 2d6, so 2 6-sided dice to play this game. Here's an example of a check roll. You're going to have health and composure, and talks about what that means, and you might lose that over time. Combat. Here's how you do combat. That looks interesting. Looks like a Doctor Who screwdriver with an attachment or something there. Again, more stuff on combat. You have mythos points. This is kind of your permanent record of your investigation. So this might be kind of I don't know, but it looks like this might be how it determines how you get through the adventure, or how well you do maybe in the adventure. Don't know if you use that as a currency at all. Investigator journal and items. So you're going to be collecting items throughout this. So again, more of that role-playing aspect, and those items might be necessary to get better results or to find stuff. Here's your investigator sheet. So you're going to have dexterity, strength, perception, stealth, and combat. But you can spend some points to increase those. You've got health, composure. Here's where you keep track of your weapons. Here's your additional items here. You're starting out with a satchel, Newport Examiner article, and a flashlight. Here's journal entries. We got a couple references there to keep track of how you're going through the book. Now, I would never deface a book. I even have a problem even looking at legacy games, let alone playing legacy games and destroying stuff. So I'd probably I'll end up making maybe copies of some of this stuff, and jot stuff down as I go, because I'm old school D&D. Mythos points, encounters, keep track of that. Then you got the prologue. So this is where you're going to start the game. So everybody who plays this is going to have to start here. So there's not much of a not much of a spoiler for having this page. But now turnover. So now after you get done with the prologue, you're going to be in the game proper. And so there's that. This is the first entry. And so after you make some decision, at the end of this, there'll be something that takes place, whether you have the right items or skill checks or make a decision, and it will send you off onto the path of, going to separate entries and seeing where that takes you. And so that's the nature of a choose your own adventure. So there's quite a few entries in here. Let's just take a peek without trying to spoil too much. Looks like there is, that's about the artist. We got all kinds of stuff here. So it looks like there's over 500. Looks like there's 586 entries. There's quite a few entries in here. So can't really spoil that, but it looks like there's some encounters. There's some, Cthulhu-like creatures in here, or Lovecraftian creatures in here that you're going to encounter. You're going to have to check your sanity and figure out mysteries. You're starting with the 10-year-old murder mystery to begin your adventure. So anyway, that is the house on Sentinel Hill. I need to see if there's any more in the Cthulhu Mythos Gamebook, because this looks well put together. I mean, there's only so much you can look in here without spoiling it, but the setting out at the beginning what the ground rules are, I've read those, and then you have in your charts or your player sheets that you need to make copies of. All that looks consistent with a quality book, and then you've got a lot of entries, and I haven't read much beyond the prologue at all, because I haven't really started this. So the writing seemed fine. You buy, this is a book, right? I mean, it's no War and Peace, or I don't know what everybody's tastes vary on what they think is great literature, but it's not a Light in August by Faulkner, but maybe that's a good thing. But I mean, it drives the narrative forward. That's what, and it's compelling enough, and it stays consistent with its world and its theme that it's created. At least that's what I've seen so far. Anyway, that's what I have for you today on A Coffee with Kilroy. So stay tuned for the rest of the day, where I'm going through picking out one of probably my favorite of the Cthulhu Mythos style games. I actually have quite a few, and there's quite a few I really like. And this one is this is my favorite solo game for Cthulhu, and my favorite big game of Cthulhu. I'll get to that later, probably not today, but I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the solo game aspects that I like. But I started off with the house on Sentinel Hill with some coffee to get you guys caffeinated and ready for your day. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by. The best way I know that you stop by is drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about this book. Have you read this book? Is there other books in this series? Do you like choose your own adventure books, or do you hate them because they're can be kind of one and done and limited replay, or do you treat them like a book and I'll read it, and then a couple years later I'll pick it up again and I'll do it fresh. So anyway, love to hear from any of you. Just keep it civil and have a good one. Thanks for watching.